All right, hello everyone, welcome back. It's that time of the week. It is time for some more PSGL. Today we arrive at Portugal for round number 7 in this season 32 championship. I am your race commentator, More Games, and joined alongside me is Otaku Logan. And well, how are you doing today?
I am doing absolutely fan-dabby-dozy. How about you? It's great to be back after a long way away, especially for me. I was away for a whole month because of irregularities I'd rather not talk about. But it is here at the the Autodromo International de Algarve in Portimao on the south coast of Portugal. A track that has been absent from the past couple of seasons, has been used in 2020 and 2021. We're so glad to have it on F1 22. This is qualifying, as you can see, as the 19 drivers make their way around out of the pit lane for the first time since December 19th, because of our Christmas break, of course. Yes, the Portimao circuit, of course, a track that hasn't been in past Formula One racing seasons, but has been in past games, so I'm sure these drivers will get quite acquainted to it quite easily, because they've had a lot of practice since it was released yet.
Yeah, definitely a track that has been added recently, like you mentioned, and the drivers have been slowly getting used to it, although a lot of drivers don't seem to tend to like racing at this circuit, but nevertheless, here we are in PSGL, and well, heading into this round, obviously, before the Christmas break, we raced at Silverstone for round number 6, and if your memory goes that far back, Brothers won that Grand Prix, and he is now second place in the championship, just 6 points behind Talent Factory Lars, who once again isn't racing. This is now the second race in a row where he hasn't attended. So this now means that Brothers and Baki both have a great chance to score even more points and hopefully gain that lead. There's only 6 points between Talent Factory Lars and Brothers, so we'll have to see how Brothers does, but he's currently on a qualifying lap coming through turn number 6, and that's right on board to see how he does on his initial banker time of this circuit. You can see coming out of turn 8, a little bit of traffic ahead of him. Hopefully it shouldn't bother him too much as he makes his way up the hill. A lot of elevation changes at this Portuguese circuit. You'll find yourself going up and down throughout the circuit as we're once again going up the hill through turn 12 and just a few more turns to go now. You can see a little bit wide there into turn number 13 and then coming through turn 14, a bit of dirty air there from the McLaren ahead, who Russell, I don't think he knows Brad is actually on the lap there. Yeah, Russell ahead of him, but giving him a nice slipstream on the pit straight now, which should hopefully gain him a little bit of lap time. As he comes across the line, he sets a 17 flat, very, very close to the 1 minute 16s, and that is quite the lap time to open up with.
It is, but I won't think he'll be very happy with Russell, who should have taken heed. Yes, of course, he went much earlier, Brothers, but he definitely should have got out of the way there. That's what I would have done. But he seemed to refuse. He wanted to get all the oomph he needed out of that penultimate corner there. And just to let you know about his title rival Lars, as Daniel goes to the top of the standing for a brief few seconds probably, because we've got all the other drivers to come through. As we're going to say about Brothers' title rival Lars, before you get your search parties on, I am afraid to tell you that he is missing out this race due to a hand injury, which is not what you want when you're driving in esports racing. So we hope he gets a speedy recovery, and hopefully we'll see him next week. But that's why Lars is not here. Back to you.
Well, there you go then. Lars obviously missed the last race out, and now this time obviously because of an injury, which is definitely a shame to see. But hopefully he makes a speedy recovery and he's back for the very next round. And he really needs to eat because of this championship, so I'm sure he'll be under a lot of stress because of it. But obviously focusing on getting better. And you can see NLR Russell just finished up his lap time there, goes to P14 with a 17.8. VIR Daniel sets a 1 minute 16.9 in the AlphaTauri. And you can see already, even in these banker times, absolutely rapid lap times so far. and one driver already into the 1 minute 16. So VIR Daniel, obviously a driver who's proven that he's quite competitive in this Formula 5, showing us once again, and he is on provisional pole position by about a tenth of a second over what seems to be a new driver in this division in the Mercedes is Hav, currently on a 17 flat and actually ahead of both Brothers and Baki, the two championship rivals. So a good lap time from him and a good early showing in this qualifying session. You can see most drivers have actually set a lap time, apart from the two Williams drivers who are yet to set representative lap times. So a lot of drivers getting those clean laps in and not really struggling too much with track limits or invalidating or making any major mistakes. You can see the lap times already are starting to get quite close. Obviously not the longest lap time here at this Portimao circuit. 1 minute 17 seconds is what we're mainly seeing in this qualifying session. So you can see there's a lot of drivers in similar time ranges. A lot of drivers in the 1 minute 17.3s, 4 drivers in those 0.3s, and only 4/10 separate the top 9, so it is definitely very, very close between the drivers today in qualifying, which is definitely to be expected in this division. But obviously this is our first race back from the winter, and well, who do you think might get pole position in this race and might be revitalized and ready to go again?
I'm honestly going to say if it's not Bradders or Baki, I think Speedfrag. He's set the pole time twice this season. Last time he did, of course, in Britain, and he also did one in Canada. So don't get any of these drivers, but I think Speedfrag might get this one. But time will tell. 3/10 a big get deficit to make. Predictions were made about what pole time would be, and some drivers said a 1:16.7, 1:16.8 possibly. We're getting towards that now, but we've got 11 minutes to go. That should be sufficient enough for 2 more hot laps. I do believe you get 4 sets of tyres, soft tyres for this session. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's a long way to go. I should mention, by the way, the title race. Have we mentioned the points? Not yet. Okay. Don't think we have, so I'll go with the point standings. The current standings are Lars, who is absent, of course, he's on 66. Bradders is on 60, so if he manages to get a 5th place finish today, then he will overtake Lars in the standings. Baki is on 56, so if he gets a podium, actually no, if he gets 2nd place, he'll be in the lead of the standings if Bradders does not get better than 5th. And they're all well ahead of Ritty Hullet, who has 34 points. So, long way to go, but of course 5 rounds. It is 85 points available, 16 for the win and 1 for the fastest lap in each race. The fastest lap, I have to say, hasn't really gone to many drivers this season because they usually fall in the bottom 10. And of course, if you're not in the top 10, you don't get the fastest lap points. Quite unusual, but that's the rules set out by PSGL. So, of course, it's still anyone's race season, this. Of course, hopefully Lars returns, but it is currently Bradders and Baki fighting it out. Oh, and one more thing I should mention. The final race of the season is no longer going to be Abu Dhabi. It is going to swap with Austin, so round 10 will be Abu Dhabi, and round 11, the final round, will be at Austin, just to clear that up. That has been announced on Twitter, just remind you again, just in case you've forgotten.
Yeah, and that should be an exciting one. Austin obviously creates some great racing, so hopefully we have a close championship battle all the way to the end, and we can see it all go down in America. But before we get to there, VIR Daniel comes back into the pit lane after making a mistake on his lap time. Meanwhile, Bradders finds his way onto the provisional front row of the grid and is now just 2/100ths behind VIR Daniel, getting very, very close now with 8.5 minutes to go. So still a good amount of time to set some more lap times and let the track evolution do its thing. But it is already extremely close. You can see the top 3 are actually 2 tenths ahead of the rest of the grid, so doing particularly well at this early stage in the qualifying session. Have currently on another lap time at 6/100ths down coming out of the first sector, so hopefully can find some more improvement in the middle sector, and we'll have to see now as he makes his way through turn number 7 and up the hill into turn number 8. It's super tricky to get on the power coming out of this turn, as going up the hill there and trying to get any sort of traction is very difficult and causes a lot of strain on these Formula 1 cars, which usually seem to have absolutely unlimited grip. But as you can see, you have coming into turn 13 still down on his sector 2 time. Meanwhile, Baki, the man you predicted for pole position, or no, sorry, Speed Fra, someone in the chat predicted Baki for pole position. But I
said other than Speed Fra, I said it was Bradders or Back. If it's not Bradders or Backy, it'll be Speed Fra. So I technically did say.
Oh yeah, there you go. And a decent prediction so far, because he is currently on provisional pole position, but only by 4/1000ths of a second to VIR Daniel's banker lap time. But Daniel obviously getting out again. He wants another lap time on these red-walled soft compound tyres. And you saw Have coming into the pit lane there, obviously made a mistake on his lap time. I think Speed Fra also made a mistake on his lap. He's still on a 1:17.2. So a couple of drivers struggling to improve, but you can see most of the top 9 were into the 17.3s. Now they find themselves in the 17.2s and lower, as we see Thebo get himself into the 17.1s, and obviously Bradders, Daniel and Baki all into the 16s, and it's Jerome bumps himself up into P8. But let's ride on board now with VIR Daniel once again for a full lap time of this Portuguese circuit. Into turn 1, you carry a lot of speed through here, and you can see Daniel has actually turned in a bit too early there. He's hit the yellow sausage curb on the inside, and he's now forced to abandon this lap time as he invalidates on the exit of turn 1. So Scratch, that does not look like we'll be riding on board for a full lap time. But Daniel seems to be struggling a lot more than the rest of the top 3 in this session. Has only got 1 lap time on the board, and only around 6.5 minutes to go, so it's not looking good for him so far. He needs to get back to the pit lane, a new set of soft compound tyres. He needs to really focus now and try to set 1 more good lap time in this session to hopefully get that pole position. He's only 4/1000ths away, so it is definitely very close, but we're already seeing 3 main contenders, the only 3 drivers into the 1:16s, Baki, Bradders and Daniels, the 3 who have usually been out there battling for victories in Formula 5. Bradders now starting his lap time. He's currently on a 1:16.984. Only needs to improve by a couple of 100ths if he wants his pole position into turn 1. You can see just narrowly missing that sausage curb on the inside before he gets himself into turn 3. You want to hit that apex quite nicely, which sets you up for this turn 4. Easy to lose the rear end as you go up the hill, but manages to keep it on track and gets a good exit. He is currently 7/100ths up on his time, but you can see a bit deep there into turn 5, a little bit of wheel spin there as well on the exit, so that will definitely cost him a 100th or 2. But as we head up the hill into turn 8, you can see once again just going a little bit wide. Does give him a decent exit though, but so far this lap looking a little bit scruffy in the middle sector. Into turn number 11 now, you're going to see plenty of differing lines. You can see Bradders all over the place on the exit. Big snap of oversteer. It means he's going to have to abandon this lap time, so it's not just Daniel who's struggling in this session. It seems like these drivers are really struggling to get to grip, especially in the traction zones.
They are. It's quite a tough track, this one, not only just to find traction, but controlling the car as a whole, because you're going like a roller coaster ride on this track. I should mention Sanchowitz has had an incident just before the pit lane and is out of the session, so he'll take no further part. He will finish no better than 12th, as a lot of the drivers are in the pits, bar Churmo and Speedfra on the track have. By the way, shout out to Havmit, making his debut here tonight, and he's already at 5th, 1/10 within Baki's time. That is some impressive stuff. Hopefully he keeps this up for the remainder of the season. Jordy also out there, so it looks like we are beginning to get to the beginning of the end with 3.5 minutes to go. I should expect them coming out with 2 minutes or so to go. It will be a massive train of cars wanting to set fast lap times. Around this 4.65 kilometre circuit, 33 laps will be completed in the race, just to let you know. And don't ask me about the strategies. It's been like 10 years since I last raced here. I do believe it was the first round of season 30, I think. I do remember. I just hope this track comes back in future games to come, because it's really fun. And come on, don't make it DLC, make it a permanent fixture, please. You don't need to make it DLC twice.
Yeah, definitely a track that's extremely challenging for the drivers, and does usually provide some great racing action, especially down that very long DRS pit straight. But like you mentioned, have on his debut already up into the top 5 and currently improving, coming out of the middle sector, or the first sector I should say. He's not the only debut man today. Another man who is making his first appearance is Tin in P7. He got promoted from PSGL's Formula 7, so obviously he was doing very well in that championship, won most of his races, and he now finds himself in the top 7 here in Formula 5. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be happy with that promotion.
Yes, he will be. I did commentate on BB8 last season, as before I go that, have Mick crossing the line and gets third. He's just a quarter of a tenth off. A valiant attempt, but that will be his last run unless he decides to do another one, and he might as well, because he is going to get new tyres at the start. You get a fresh set now when you start the race. It's not the one you set your lap on. I'm not sure if he is going again. No, he's not going again. So yeah, BB8 though, making his way through the first few corners for his final hot lap. He almost won the season last season in F7. I was commentating on it, but his most crucial errors were at Mexico, where he could have just won the race if he kept it penalty free. But he messed up, he got a penalty in the last lap, and Rastas won the race. And then in Imola, he was in a great position to win. I believe Rastas was absent for that one too, I'm not sure, but he crashed at a critical point of the race, and he, I believe, lost the season on, I think it was countback, which was the most cruel way to lose the championship. But yes, we should get back onto the times that are about to tumble, because all the drivers are about to cross the line, I think, either to start a lap or finish their lap.
Yeah, obviously Tin makes mistakes in the past, but so far in this season he's managed to iron those out, and that is why he finds himself promoted by 2 divisions. But Baki currently on provisional pole position and also currently on a lap time, but he is a 10th down coming out of the first sector now. It's crucial that he improves upon his lap time, because the likes of Braders and Speed Fra only a couple of 100s behind. Obviously the top 5 separated by just 34 1,000ths of a second, so it's extremely close between the top 5 now, so every single 100th of a second is going to matter. So Baki needs to improve this time if he wants to solidify his provisional pole position and make it an actual pole position, but he's a 10th down coming out of the middle sector. It does not look like he is going to improve upon his lap. Meanwhile, Brothers now is making his way through turn number 11. Can he possibly improve on his 16.9? He is just about improving right now. It's not enough for pole position. Speed Fra also, he's improving, but this time by a 10th of a second. So Speed Fra right now looks like he could be on for pole position. Baki does not improve his time. Brothers is coming through turn number 15 now. He's flat out through here. And across the line, you can see what kind of time is he going to set? It's a 16.8 from Brothers, and he goes to pole position. Can Speed Fra beat that? Yes, he can. He goes to pole position with a 1 minute 16.7, but he gets beaten by VIR Daniel, who set his time at the death of the session. It's a 1 minute 16.785 for the AlphaTauri driver, and I think that could be pole position, and a great final lap time there to steal pole position from the Juventus Racing driver. driver. VRT Cherno comes across the line to finish P14, and Nikitu comes across the line. He cannot improve his time. He will be starting from the back of the grid, but what a qualifying session that was. Daniel and Speed Fra just about making it into the 1 minute 16.7s, but Daniel is going to be on top and on pole position for today's Portuguese Grand Prix.
I honestly didn't see Daniel. Daniel came out of nowhere, that one. I wasn't thinking he'd get that. Speed Fra, I had my hunches on, but pipped at the post. Daniel, with effectively the last lap of the session, gets the pole position ahead of Speed Fra, who is also in the front row. Bradders and Baki, the title contenders tonight, Lars, are on second row, and then we've got the newcomer Havmik and Splash on the third row. BB8 are another newcomer, and Slimbo on the fourth row, and Thibaut and Janu on the fifth row, and your bottom 9 down there as well. That is your grid. By the way, a correction about BB8. He did lose on countback, but it wasn't in F7, it was actually F9. So he's actually, in the past few months, jumped 4 divisions in PlayStation. That's actually one heck of an achievement. So well done, BB8, in getting this far. Hopefully he can conquer his demons and get a championship win in maybe a few more seasons. Of course, we're in the middle of the championship. It's well, actually, mathematically, he can win the championship if he wins all the rest of the races and no one else gets any points. But that's highly unlikely, and it is a very damp, doom and gloom look of the weather today, as we can see for the race. Remember, no formation lap because, let's be honest, the formation lap's not very fun. But other than that, it's just the tyres are just going to be too cold and everything. So it's going to be quite a tricky start again. I hope the drivers remember that the tyres are cold, because after all, we just had our Christmas break.
Definitely, and they'll have to keep a close eye out on this race start, and yeah, definitely, because it does look a bit overcasty as we are preparing for today's Grand Prix, and someone actually telling me in the chat that it's going to be wet for today's Grand Prix, so definitely something to keep an eye out for, and the clouds are definitely suggesting it, so we'll have to see how that plays out, and that's definitely going to affect the strategy quite heavily. Are the drivers going to go for the mediums or the hards? Well, we'll have to see which one is going to make it until the rain. But we are now getting ready for today's Grand Prix. The drivers have fine-tuned their setups. They're on the grid, and we are now getting ready for the race. We have 5 red lights. They're gone, and we're away. What kind of starts it for pole man of VIR, Daniel, and it doesn't look like the best one up against Speed Fra, who's trying to pull alongside into turn number 1. He has that inside line over VIR, Daniel, but he holds it around the outside into turn 1. He maintains the race lead. Meanwhile, Bradders is sticking his nose up the inside into turn 3. Can't commit to that move just yet. Baki holding his P4 position, and Have still in the top 5 on his debut Grand Prix, but he's got NLR Slimbo right behind him and ready to pounce at any moment now. You can see plenty of battling in the background. That's FRL, it's Jerome, and a big incident down at turn 5. Jerome and Thibaut both making mistakes and getting the wheels spun there, falling down quite a few positions. BB8 falling all the way down to P18. It's not been a good race start for him, and a shame to see. You can see the rain is already starting to hit as we're seeing the first few drops of the session. Bradders is putting so much pressure under Speed Fra now as we head through turn number 12. Only a tenth separate the two drivers, and you can see he's getting very, very close. He is on the medium compounded tires, so obviously he was predicting that the rain would come a lot earlier. You can see the grip difference between the mediums and the hards. Bradders going for a switchback move, gets the better exit on Speed Fra, and he moves himself up into P2 as we head out of turn number 15. Meanwhile, in the background, Have is trying to make the move on Baki, who's currently P3 in the championship. Baki seems to have a lot more straight line speed on this pit straight now, and he's able to maintain that P4 position. And Lars Slimbo patiently waiting in the background now. Meanwhile, FRL, it's Jerome, gets past Daniel as we head into turn 11. And yeah, turn 11, I should say turn 1, he moved himself up into P11, and you can see there's already a bit of a gap forming at Jordy, currently 1.3 seconds off of Janu, and You can see
He's about
Brothers,
for
yeah,
the
he's
lead.
getting so close to the race lead now, and these mediums really helping him quite a lot in these early phases. But how long is this grip going to last? Because the rain is hitting, but when is it going to change to these intermediate conditions?
Only time will tell, probably in a couple of laps. Yes, this is all advantage Bradders. He knew there was going to be some rain, so he decided, you know what, let's put the mediums on, see how long we go. In fact, you should actually be putting the sauce on. Slash is the only driver on the inters right now. He's waiting in the pits, and to be fair, he's not having the best of times. Actually, this is not a bad move by Slash. Now all the other drivers have to get an inters, but at what cost? He'll not have as fast times as the other drivers are. I don't think they're going away that much. Sancho Wiz is also on the sauce, by the way, as Bradders bids to make a move into the third lap we go. He's got the slipstream. He's not got the DRS, though. He'll have to wait next time. He looks for a move. He's got more superior grip, but he can't seem to make move. In fact, he goes wide out of the first corner, and he's going to lose a bit of ground there. But Daniel's still hanging on in the lead ahead of Bradders. Speedfra and Baki2 also there as well. Our newcomer Havmik is doing well in 5th, but as you can see, a lot of drivers, like you mentioned, they were all over the place on the first lap. I think there was a 5-car collision at the first 2 corners. It was not a pleasant sight. But that's behind them, and they've got a new start. In fact, they will be getting a bit of a new start because it is starting to rain and everyone will have to come into the pits. So this is pretty much going to neutralise the field, this rain. But of course, how intense is this rain going to be? It's not that intense. It's just a few drizzles, I have to say. But only time will tell if the rain will get any stronger and the need to pit will have to come earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, you can tell by looking at the circuit, it's definitely still time for these slick tyres. But it doesn't look like that's going to last for long. You can see Jordy struggling in these conditions.
Disabled.
And the DRS is now disabled. So that is usually a good indication that it is time for the intermediate compounded tyres. But the track does not look ready. But it still seems that everyone is coming into the pit lane. Although VIR Daniel, he's going to risk it on his hard compound of tyre, which should realistically be the worst compound for these dry/wet conditions. That little bit of in between. He's not the only person that stays out. His teammate, it's Jerome, staying out. Van der Brugge on the mediums, and it looks like GTZ Rodas also staying out on the hard compound of tyre. So it looks like some of these drivers still don't think it's ready for the inters just yet, but you can see those raindrops are now starting to stick to the circuit, and these drivers on the slick compounded tyres are really starting to struggle. You can see VIR Daniel, as we go through turn 8, really struggling to carry any speed at all, and then getting on the power is great difficulty for him. So maybe not the best choice to stay out for another lap. Meanwhile, Brothers into turn 5. You can see he's doing a little bit better on these intermediate compounded tyre, and he's already broken a 1.6 second gap to Speed Fra behind. So Brothers has had an absolutely perfect race start. Speed Fra going a little bit wide there on the exit of turn number 7, and you can see he's already struggling in these intermediate conditions. But this weather has hit quite early on in this Grand Prix, and maybe some drivers weren't fully expecting that. You can see that's yellow flags for the likes of Van der Brugge, making a bit of a mistake there. Daniel now comes into the pit lane, and it's Jerome is going to have to double stack with his teammates. That definitely will cost him a little bit of time, but all of the drivers now coming into the pit lane for their green walled intermediate compound tyres. You can see Brothers losing a little bit of time to Speed Fra behind, who's slowly but surely getting the hang of these intermediate conditions, although goes a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 15. Hopefully that's not a warning for his sake. Rodas has actually stayed out for another lap on these hard compound tyres. Oh yeah, you can see that's the AlphaTauri of Daniel. He's had a spin there, going side by side, and he has gone down the order now, all the way down to P8, and he's going side by side with Janu through turn number 3. He's going to have the inside line for turn number 4. Janu gets a slightly better exit, but he gets forced off the circuit there, and Daniel just about holding P7. That was quite the incident there with Daniel.
Yeah, I'm sorry I had to cut over you, but I didn't get a chance to speak because Brothers and Daniel pretty much came out at the same time into turn 1, but Daniel got squeezed out and shot there and lost control of his car, and is now down in 7th. A horrible error for Daniel to make, And Brader's now in the net lead by about 8 tenths, 9 tenths, a second now actually. And it's within 5 seconds of Rodaz, who is still not pit yet. And this is not a very ideal situation for Rodaz. I think he's got to come in now. He's lost like a second and a half in 10 seconds. It's just ridiculous. So he's going to come in now. No, he's not. Come in. Is he even in the lobby? This is not. I have absolutely no idea what's going on, Jack, but Rodaz is refusing to pit, and he's paying the price for it. Look, he's going wide everywhere. This is just a horrendous situation, and Vandenberg gets a penalty.
And meanwhile, it's Jerome going side by side with Debo in the final sector. He gets past on the pit straight, getting himself up into P12. But Debo is trying to fight back here, has a little look to the inside, coming into turn 3, tries to brake quite late, and he's actually going to try and get this move done, almost forcing Jerome off of the circuit there, but leaving just about enough space. Still side by side now through the first sector and coming into turn number 5. Does Debo have enough brakes on him to get past Jerome, who gets boxed in between himself and the Alpine, and Debo is able to sail past on the exit of that turn. Quite the battle now going on. You can see the Ferrari battling with the Alpine of Daniele, and through turn number 8, Debo tries to find a way down the inside. Very optimistic move there, but VRT Cherno gaining quite a few positions off of this race start, now currently in P10. Meanwhile, we're seeing Rodaz lose so much time relative to the drivers around him. I don't know if he's expecting it to go dry again, but right now these hard compound tires are not working at all. These tires were definitely not designed for these conditions, and as such he is struggling in his Aston Martin. Is he going to come into the pit lane on lap 7 of 33? I think he finally gives in, and he is going to come in for the intermediates now that everyone else is on these green wall tires. Baki very close to the back of NLR Slimbo, who actually got past him. I think Baki might have made a mistake or two, because he falls down to P5, and Have currently on his debut race is on a podium position and 1.6 seconds off of the battle between the top two, who are Speedfra and Brothers, who are going to be battling it out for this race victory. If Brothers takes another race win here, he could be taking the championship lead today and looking to maintain it for the rest of the season, and trying to take advantage of Lars not being here tonight. You can see Daniele is currently coming through turn number 7, and he's still very, very close to VRT Cherno, who are now promoted to P9 and 10 after Rodaz finally coming into the pit lane. And it looks like NLR Russell is now going to be involved in this battle, as Cherno has been pushing on now and has caught up to the back of the McLaren. And hopefully we'll be getting a nice bit of slipstream down the pit straight, which should help him out. Meanwhile, Jordi and Lakitu going side by side through turn number 12. Lakitu using the curb on the inside. You can see both drivers going deep there into turn number 13. But Jordi just about staying ahead now, and is now up into P14. He's going to be chasing after the back of the Mercedes of Vandenbroek. And he's going to have to push quite hard. 1.5 second gap separates them. Meanwhile, Baki finds his way past Slimbo into turn 1, and Daniele is looking to make a similar move on VRT Cherno, but Cherno just has that decent bit of straight line speed and is able to hold that position. Daniele a little bit sketchy there on the exit of turn 1, but he's going to continue to push on, continue to apply the pressure and slowly break down Cherno's defense, and hopefully be able to make a move. You can see Snapper focus here on the exit of turn 4 for Cherno, and Slimbo has now actually lost the position to VIR Daniel. So Slimbo starting to struggle in these intermediate conditions, gets very close to the back of VIR Daniel. Cherno and Daniele still battling with it, and Daniele had a look to the outside turn 7, but that did not work out for him. NLR Russell now gets himself a 3-second time penalty.
I'm very impressed with how Daniel's doing. He's apparently the biggest winner here right now. He's gained 7 positions in 7 laps, and he could make it 8 and 8 if he gets past Cherno before the finish line. The gap 3.35 now. It's falling to 3 tenths now. It's really, oh, look at Russell. He's really starting to struggle as he goes on the outside of that turn. And Cherno's licking his lips, and so is Daniele. He's coming right. Oh, he's had an oversteer moment. He might lose that position to T-Ball. He's right behind him on his gearbox. In fact, he's getting a bit of a push as they come around the final corner. They actually lift off the throttle because of how wet it is. T-Ball goes wide, and that's not going to do him any favours. In fact, it might give him a warning with the stewards for going off the track. No DRS for Daniele. It's all raw pace now. In these wet conditions, it's too dangerous, of course. And Cherno goes off the track a little bit. But it doesn't look like it's going to stop him keeping his 9th place as he approaches Russell, who is starting to make more mistakes. And he doesn't want to be doing that because all this driver pile behind him is going to come tumbling down on it. And look, Russell really starting to struggle. The gap now is only, well, it's actually 9/10 now, but it was about half a second for a while. So it must have been how they measure it at the curves. But there you go, he's still in 8th, but he's 7 seconds behind Janu. Jordy gets a penalty, by the way, you don't want to be doing that. As Daniele is starting to close up again on Cherno, 2/10 the gap. And I think this is the only battle on track right now, is it, Jack? Because I other than Jerome and T-Ball doing our own battle as well, I only see the battle for 9th place developing here.
Yeah, it's definitely a big struggle in the midfield for these points-paying positions. Obviously, Janu is getting quite close to the back of Slimbo, who seems to be struggling the further he gets into these intermediate conditions. But yeah, you saw there a mistake there from Cherno, allowing Daniele to get even closer with a snap of oversteer on turn number 15. And Thibaut behind him could have taken advantage, but he has had a spin on the exit and retired from the session. And we'll have to see, is this going to bring out the safety car? It is on the entry of the pit lane, so it wouldn't be a surprise, but does not look like the safety car will be making an appearance. And Thibaut, obviously Daniele made that mistake, maybe just off-settled Thibaut that little bit. He's made a mistake and he's gone into the barrier on the exit of turn number 15. That is going to be the first retirement of the session today. And yeah, Thibaut is going to definitely be a little bit frustrated about that, but obviously Daniele doesn't have to worry about him anymore. Instead, he has to keep his eyes focused on not only Cherno, but it's Jerome too, who's only 6/10 behind the Alpine driver. You can see Cherno and Russell both struggling in these conditions. Cherno 1.3 seconds off of the McLaren driver, who currently has a 3-second time penalty, so it won't matter to him too much. But you can see Cherno went quite wide there. Slimbo got himself a time penalty, and Van der Broek tried to overtake Jerome, but Jerome just tagging Van der Broek's rear tyre there, and he spun him round. Thankfully, Van der Broek able to keep it on track there, but I think he's actually gotten a time penalty. No, I think he always had that time penalty. But yeah, a bit of an incident there between himself and it's Jerome. That's a Ferrari. He's going off the circuit. That is NLR Slimbo on the exit of turn number 15. He falls down the order now. Behind it's Jerome. That's Van der Broek, who was out of the session. Another spin on the exit of turn 15. Driver struggling so much, and the safety car has been released.
Virtual safety car. It's getting too dangerous now. They've seen enough, and it's going to be all the drivers slowing down. But yeah, that's 2 drivers out on the final corner in 2 laps. Thibault's incident was caused by a misjudgment from Danielle, and Thibault just got caught up in it, nowhere to go, and that was it for him. Van der Broek, there's just a chain reaction. I think there's something going on in that final corner. You have noticed them, by the way, Jack. They have lifted off the throttle in turn 15. Because there's not a lot of traction you can get from that turn because of its landscape. And Slimbo was very lucky to dodge the barriers, but Van der Broek was not at all, and as a result, it is curtains for both of them. Not for Slimbo yet, though, but yes, the safety car, virtual safety car still, is it still a virtual safety car? No, it's a full safety car. It's a full safety car, so the whole field will be neutralised, and this is bad news for Bradders, because that's all his hard work undone, because all the drivers were behind him who were like 8 seconds behind, they're going to come up and close up to him. It sounds unfair, but unfortunately that's the way it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And Bradders was battling away, having a nice little battle with Speed Frat, but that's going to continue on. But now have Baki, VIR, Daniel, they're all going to get into the contention for this race win. and we'll have to see how that plays out. It's going to be quite a big battle in these wet conditions. Very difficult to overtake in these conditions, but I'm sure the drivers will make the most of what they have. Brothers now catching up to the safety car, and he's going to begin to group up the field now. As it stands, Brothers is in P1 with Speedfra in P2, and right behind them it's Hav on his debut Grand Prix. Started P5, finds himself into a podium position. Baki maintaining P4. Daniel fell all the way from pole position down to P5. He has not had the best of race starts, been struggling a little more in these wet conditions. You can see a couple of drivers coming into the pit lane, the likes of BB8, Ariel Slash and Sanchoiz, all coming into the pit lanes for some fresh intermediate compound tyres, which should hopefully take them to the end of this Grand Prix. Janu in P6 after gaining 4 positions off of that race start. NLR Russell gaining 5, Cherno has gained 6, and Daniele has actually gained 8 positions off of his original starting position. So start P17 finds himself in the top 10. It's Jerome is in P10 with Slimbo making that big mistake on the exit of turn 15. He falls all the way down to P11 and also has a time penalty to his name, and so does Jordy in the Haskar. The Kitu, who started P19 after a suboptimal qualifying session, he's gained plenty of positions and is into the top 13 and possibly going to be battling for points in this Grand Prix. BB8 in his first race down into P14, but he has boxed for some fresh intermediate compound tyres, which should hopefully help him out against the rest of the drivers. Arya Slash down in P15. Rodas is going to get another chance after not boxing off of his hard compound tyres for quite some time. And then Sanchowitz down in P17 with 2 retirements so far in this race. So the grid is definitely going to be looking very interesting for this safety car restart.
It is, but we're going to have to wait a while because we've still got a couple of drivers who have pitted about to join up in the pack. That's BB8 slash Rodas and Sanchowitz. And once they join up, the race will get underway again. We're for a third of the race. And by the way, I'm going to be writing a letter of complaint to Connor about, oh my goodness, Sanchowitz nearly loses it. A letter of complaint to Connor. Why are we racing in Portugal in January? It is freezing cold, it's not sunny, and it's wet. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see you in the summer again next time. Goodness sake, it's so cold. I've never felt so cold in Portugal.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm sure these drivers aren't enjoying it too much either. These wet conditions really making their lives difficult, but still able to overtake each other and make some nice action for themselves and trying to gain those crucial positions, trying to get themselves the most points in this championship. And well, 2 men who are very focused on points are currently Brothers and Baki. Baki down in P4 now, 3 positions behind his title rival Brothers, and he'll be hoping to gain something off of this safety car restart. He's had the chance to get used to these intermediate conditions. He's been running in them for 13 laps now. Hopefully he'll be able to pull up a bit of a challenge against the likes of Hav and Speedfra and also Brothers, who's currently in P1. But he has got the likes of VIR Daniel behind him, who even after making that big mistake in wet conditions, or I think it was an incident between himself and Brothers, he's now down to P5, but we know he's an extremely quick driver. He wouldn't have been on pole position if he wasn't, so he's going to try fight himself back up into the top 3 positions. And we're definitely going to see a lot of tension between the likes of Janu, Russell, Cherno, Daniele, It's Jerome, Slimbo. They're all going to be battling for these top 10 positions to try and get themselves some points, and quite a few up for grabs in this midfield. And yeah, I think there's going to be plenty of battling going on between them like we've saw in the earlier stages. But as the race goes on and these drivers continue to push their tyres, they're really going to start to feel it as the tyre wear continues to get more and more. You can see currently 10 laps done on the intermediates for a lot of the drivers. Obviously Daniel only has 9 laps done because he boxed a little later than everyone else, and the bottom 4 all boxing for fresh intermediate compound tyres. So definitely keep an eye on the likes of BB8, who's going to have a big advantage on the drivers ahead of him.
Yes, he is. He is going to have a big advantage on the drivers ahead of him. Some of these drivers are on 9-10 lap tyres, and they're going to start to wear out eventually. And I think they're going to have to pit again. So BB8 and slash Rodas, I think they've done the right thing here, but remember, they've got to get the end of the race on 21 lap old intermediate tyres. It is some superhuman feat, let me tell you, in this game. I think we're about to get ready to get underway, so I've got my eye on Speedfra, and he's going to be having Bradders all behind him. Not Bradders, he's going to have Speedfra behind him, as well as Havmik. He's got to keep it careful, though, as we've seen those two drivers that have crashed in the last turn in 2 laps this race, and he got to be careful as we navigate the final few corners whilst racing at the same time. It is no easy thing to do. So Bradders will lead the field coming around the final corner, which has been a bloodbath, but he hopefully will not add fuel to the fire as he gets ready to start us up. He gets the throttle on, and we're racing once again as they cross the line. And it looks like we already have a battle developing between Baki and Daniel, who was on pole, but after an incident with Bradders, went down the field. He's worked his way up very well as he goes around the outside of Baki, but he doesn't get a move. In fact, no, he hasn't got the move. He had a bit of an incident, and Cherno has spun at turn number 1. Jerome has got a penalty, and Daniel gets around the inside at turn number 3 of Baki and into 4th place. And next will be the newcomer Havmik. Meanwhile, Janu is in 6th, and Russell in 7th. Slimbo overtakes Jerome, and Jerome is starting to struggle. He also gets passed by Jordy, and Lakitu there as well, battling with BB8 side by side out of the hairpin. And they're colliding wheels there for a second, and onto the inside. BB8 goes into 12th. His gamble has paid off for now, as he now will go for Jerome and perhaps Jordy as they still battle for 10th place. Coming around through the middle sector, it is still Bradders 1.3 seconds ahead of Speedfra. Havmik still in 3rd, Daniel in 4th, and then Baki in 5th, Janu in 6th. As the midfield comes through as well. This is some battle developing in the midfield, but BB8 starting to come for them all as Jordy struggles out of the final few corners. And next, BB8 will try and execute a move on the inside. He has the more superior grip, as you can see, coming around turn 14. And now the hard turn 15 is going to have to lift off the throttle. Will they all get through safety? That is the question. Looks like they are doing right now. They've seen what's happened to Vandenberg. They've seen what's happened to Slimbo. They've seen what's happened to DeBolt. And they all get through nice and safely. But it's still Bradders in the lead by 1.1 seconds as BB8 doesn't make the move. But Daniel Play gets moved out by Slimbo. Slimbo making his way up the grid to Jack.
It is so close between these midfield drivers, all squabbling for position. You can see Jordy is now looking to the inside line on turn number 4, wheel banging between the two drivers into turn number 5. How late is Jordy going to brake? It's super late and a bit too late from Jordy, who hits into the back of Daniele. This allows Jerome to go past the two of them, and Jordy falls down to P12 as BB8 is all over the back, who's actually been compromised and now overtaken by not 1 but not 2 but 3 drivers, and all that hard work that he's done off of that safety car restart been ruined by Jordy making that big error into turn number 5 there. And also Daniele missing out because of that. He loses the position to its Jerome. I'm sure the stewards will have fun looking at that one. But right now, Bradders showing us once again, like he did in his very first race win in the Netherlands, that he has got absolutely phenomenal pace in these wet conditions. The K2 has now made a mistake at turn number 13. He falls to the back of the grid, although VRT Cherno is actually 40 seconds off. He obviously had to make a pit stop after breaking his front wing. That is why he's currently down in P17 by 40 seconds. He was a driver who was looking quite competitive in this race, but a shame to see him. BB8 as well, who just boxed for fresh intermediates, now has to come in for a front wing change. So absolutely brutal to see a lot of drivers getting caught up in incidents in those first couple of laps of the safety car restart. Although BB8 actually comes in and doesn't get his front wing changed, so I think that might have been a glitch from the game there. So I think he's actually going to have to even come in again to get his front wing repaired. So he's going to be 2 pit stops down, and that's a big tank stopper for him.
I don't see any damage on his front wing. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe he wasn't feeling the grip and he just came in to get his pit stop over with, so he doesn't have to pit again by the looks of it, because I know these tyres can go half a race distance without struggling. in 50% anyway. But yes, that's his pit stop done now, and should mention the gap now, 2.25 seconds. Brader's shortened to show he is the dominant force in this title race and will take the title race lead as it stands. If Lars returns, then we've got a battle for the championship on our hands for sure. Baki needs to get up there too, but he's stuck in 5th trying to get past Daniel. As Russell's starting to drop off, he's 3 seconds behind Janu, struggling around the final corner as well, which has claimed 2 victims, as we've already mentioned. But yes, it is starting to open wide, and not the way we wanted. The gaps are too big for some racing action here, Jack.
Yeah, definitely, but there are still a little bit of battling going on, especially in the midfield and the upper midfield as well. Have quite close to the back of Speed Fra, but everyone just struggling to make these moves in these wet conditions. Obviously no DRS in these conditions, so it's a lot harder to overtake in a straight line. You really need a big pace advantage to overtake the driver ahead of you. So with these drivers being so closely matched, we're not seeing a lot of overtakes. But yeah, you can see BB8 comes into the pit lane again, and yeah, obviously the pit crew just did not repair his front wing, so he has to box again for a new front wing. And I think he's now going to be hoping for a safety car to bring him back into this race. But yeah, and obviously sometimes the game doesn't actually show visible damage on the car, even when it is there. A bit of a game glitch there, and well, what would F1 22 be without it? Possibly a good game. Anywho, Hav is just 6/10 behind Speed Fra. And Speed Fra currently 3.5 seconds off of Braders. Not to say that he is slow, it's just Braders is making everyone look a bit slow. 3.5 seconds. He's absolutely flying in these intermediate conditions, and so is Hav in his debut Grand Prix. He's doing an absolutely fantastic job so far, keeping the likes of VIR, Daniel and Baki behind him. I mean, you can't ask for much more on a debut Grand Prix.
Can't really ask more from that. Third place, he may even get on for the win here if something goes alright for Braders, but I don't want to tempt fate, of course. He's just in a race of his own, to be fair. He's only racing himself at this rate. Speedfra is getting absolutely nowhere. It's like he's got traction control on, which is impossible, obviously, because it's turned off in F5. It's either that or he's in the division too high. His teammate, though, Jordy, has had no luck, really. He's just come in for another pit stop and new tyres, so that will get him to the end of the race. By the way, Lakitu only hasn't pit either, and neither has any of the top 10 since the intermediaries were required. The DRS was disabled, and I think they'll be coming in the next few laps by the looks of it. So means Slash, it'll be interesting to see where he comes out of. Oh, and Cherno's actually left the session, but he's down in 16th. I don't think it will play much problem to the race overall, but we still see Braders now extending the lead. It's just like, what will it be at the end of it? It'll be at 8, 9, 10 seconds. It's ridiculous. I've never seen the like in a long time.
Yeah, Braders absolutely insane in wet conditions, and he's just showing us once again. And the one man you can usually challenge him, Tom Factory Lars, sadly not here today. Hopefully we see a good battle between them in the next Grand Prix. But for now, Braders showing why he is in this championship battle, why he's about to take the championship lead after today's round, so long as everything stays as it is and he doesn't make any major mistakes. Although, like you mentioned, the pit stops are going to come soon. 16 laps done on these intermediate compound tyres, and they're definitely going to start to feel a little bit of pain now for running this long. Intermediates definitely are quite a durable compounded tyre and last quite a few laps, but stretching them to the end of the Grand Prix would be asking quite a bit from them. So I think we saw Jordy actually come into the pit lane for some fresh intermediate compound tyres. He was one of the first to box for the Inters after the safety car restart. So he's possibly a sign that it is time to box for fresh tyres, and obviously that's quite an ideal time to stop for them. Obviously they've done 16 laps now. If they box, they're going to do 13 laps on their new compound, or they could stay out and pretty much lose time because they're running more laps on this worn compound of tyres. So is anyone going to come into the pit pit lane, and we know, as most league racers usually are, they absolutely love to stretch their tyres for as long as possible, and to extents that you probably wouldn't be able to do in real life. So we'll have to see if some of these drivers are possibly tempted to stretch their tyres for an entire, I think it's 29 laps.
Yeah, Lakitu's in, should mention. Yeah, it's kind of like a game of drive till the tyres explode, and we don't encourage people to do that because explosions aren't always pretty, as we have seen with many CGI effects in movies, but that's beside the point. 4.4 seconds, by the way. Bradders doesn't seem like he can be stopped. Only he can stop himself winning this race at this rate. Quite a battle developing behind. I should mention Slash still trying to close up to the points. Daniele, who is yet to pit, the last driver that's yet to pit since the change of weather, and has risen up the field like a champ, as I have quoted many times before. Still up 7, and still the biggest gainer from this race, and BB8 has been the biggest loser, but Jerome really starting to close up as well on Slimbo. The gap between coming half a second there has come around the final few corners, but anyone going to pit now? It doesn't look like they want to yet, so it looks like that proves a testament that they are loving to stretch their tyres, and yet the top 10 still staying out there, and the drivers behind still trying to close up, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. Jerome having a nice sneak up Slimbo, but it doesn't seem like he can get it. You have to wait a while by the sounds of it, because of course there's no DRS, so he isn't going to gain any fundamental advantages once he comes out this turn, which is normally one of our DRS zones, but it is out of commission for today. He'll have to try and send something up the inside if he's feeling lucky, but he's probably best waiting later, because they'll know everything that you do, and they'll try and do it back to you. They'll find a way to get back past you if they pass you coming to the final laps. Here they might try something strategic and tactical to catch you out.
Yeah, and these wet conditions are also something that can catch you out, but obviously we've seen it quite a bit at turn 15, but now the drivers have settled themselves in. They're getting used to these wet conditions. These green walled inter tyres are quite a familiar sight on their cars, but it's really a question now, when do the drivers box? Because if they do decide to box, which it looks like a lot of them aren't actually boxing just yet, no one suffering from any major tyre wear, or at least it doesn't look like that visually, so all the drivers just skipping past the pit lane for yet another lap time. We're now on lap 23 of 33. 10 more racing laps to go after this one, and oh, you can see Jerome had a little look to the outside there, but not able to commit to a move into turn 1 just yet. He could look for a move into turn 3, but no. You can see Jerome has been quite close to the back to Slimbo for quite a while now, but just hasn't been able to find a way past without having that power of DRS down each DRS rate. It's extremely difficult to overtake, because it does look like Jerome definitely has the pace over Slimbo. And with Russell, Slimbo and Jerome all having time penalties, they are battling each other for actual race positions. So it would help Jerome out quite a bit if he could overtake the Ferrari of Slimbo. Struggling to do so. He's just trying to gain as much time as possible through the turn. He's trying to use his ERS effectively. But even after all that, it's definitely a very tricky track to overtake in general. When you add the wet conditions, it gets even trickier. But Simbo making a bit of a mistake there on the entry of turn number 12, allowing Jerome to get that little bit closer as we head into the final 2 turns. And if Jerome can just get within those 3/10 on the exit of turn 15, he could possibly make a move if he used a lot of his ERS. But you can see as we head into turn 15, 5/10 is the difference between himself and Simbo. And everyone else in, well, not much of a DRS train, but the slipstream is just about enough to keep each driver ahead of one another. So a real big struggle to make any sort of progress in this field. Meanwhile, Browder's out in front, taking it nice and easy and extending his gap to 5 seconds to speed Fra behind. Have keeping up a good pace relative to Daniel and Baki behind, almost breaking out a 1 second gap on the AlphaTauri, and could be getting a podium in his debut Grand Prix, and what a debut that would be in PSGL's Formula 5. But you can see 20 laps on these intermediate compounded tires, and it's going to be, yeah, I think it's 29 laps if they decide to stretch it to the end of the race, and these drivers definitely love doing just that. So I think we could see quite a few drivers, if not all of them, actually stay out until lap 33.
We could, and it could be entirely possible, yeah. But it's a really dangerous situation when they get closer to the finish line. The tires start to really burn like they're in a furnace or something. It is ridiculous how they keep these going for so long. But eventually it will crack if they're not careful. And they've got to be careful when it starts to run out of tire life, because if they don't, then they may get a puncture and that may ruin their entire race. And I think Brothers has got to start thinking. I think he's playing a strategic game here. He's staying out because he wants to make everyone think that going in the pits is too costly. If he goes into the pits, I think he may have made a big mistake if he pits. He'll lose a lot of ground and the other drivers will go to the end, and that could play into their favour. So it's a bit of a strategic game now, I think Brothers is trying to play. He's got 5-second lead. I think he's waiting for someone to wave the white flag, come into the pits, and that could be a sign that the tyres are gone, and he'll come into the pits the next lap. He's looking right behind his mirrors. Well, good luck with that. He's 5 seconds ahead. Well, down the straights, don't think it'll be much of an issue. But yes, you know what I mean, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And if that is his plan, all he has to do is just conserve his tyres, which he should be able to do, hopefully a little bit, as he has got that big gap to speed Fra behind. It's all about who manages their worn tyres the best. I think the further we get into this race, the more likely we are to see mistakes from the drivers, because the wet conditions already make it difficult to get out of the corner and get decent traction. When you add worn, wet tyres to that, it gets even trickier. So there's a lot of things going against these drivers, and one thing is a 3-second time penalty for NLR Russell, bringing him to a grand total of 6 seconds of time penalties, and at this stage of the Grand Prix, that would drop him all the way from P7 to P13. So time penalties playing a big factor in his race at this stage. And you can see Slimbo is playing a big factor too, very, very close to the back of the McLaren, and on the exit turn 4, a bit of a snap of oversteer, and you can see Jerome trying to take a bit of an advantage of this, has a look to the inside, cannot brake late enough to make the move on the Ferrari. But it seems like both Russell and Slimbo are starting to struggle with the tyre wear now. But you can see it's Jerome getting up on the curb of turn number 6. And he has spun his car and fallen down to P13 behind the Aston Martin of Rodas. And you can see he just had to keep his focus there, keep his calm. And he was very, very close to overtaking Slimbo, like he has been for quite a few laps now. But that mistake is going to be extremely costly. And it does not look like he will be scoring points in this Grand Prix.
No, he won't. A critical error from Drone, and that could be very costly. And Speedfra almost loses it in turn 15. We've seen that before, but Speedfra manages to keep it under control, but the gap becomes 5 seconds again. I think these tyres are starting to run out. Meanwhile, Daniel's going for a move on Baki into the first corner, but he decides against making the move. But is he going to try? Oh, he's tagged Baki. He's tagged Baki. He's going to go to the outside. Baki caught up, but he stays ahead. What control from Baki. That is fantastic. But here comes Daniel again. Baki's not going to be very happy with Daniel, the way he attacked him in turn 1. And now he's going to go up the inside of Baki into turn number 5. And forced wide is Baki. Baki not very happy with how Daniel is conducting himself, and he wants to get back past, but he's not gonna. He's gonna be forced to stay behind him, and that is a very unfortunate moment for Baki. He was tagged from behind by Daniel. I think they're starting to struggle in these conditions. There's not much sense of good control from any of these, and in fact, it's starting to get sunny, I think. I'm not entirely sure, to be fair. I just saw a bit of the sun. But Bradders is considering very well, and I think Russell has had an incident. Russell's falling down the order, and there was a yellow flag.
Yeah, I think that was wheel spin there on the eggs of turn 8, loses them to position to 3 of the drivers that are now ahead of him, and quite a few battles going on now as the tyres begin to wear, and Sanchowitz is also trying to take advantage of NLR Russell's misfortune, and he goes for a switchback move there at turn number 14. Russell trying to hold it around the outside, but simply does not have the grip to do so, and you can see how much ERS he has. He has not been using it at all in these wet conditions. He's up to 99%. He's got to start using a little bit of that now to try and gain back some positions. That's exactly what he's doing on this pit straight, trying to battle away with Sanchowitz, and he breaks super late and a bit too late coming into turn number 1, and then almost collides into the side of Rodaz, but thankfully Rodaz just about avoiding the spinning McLaren, who now falls from P7 down to P13, which I think would have happened anyway with the amount of time penalties he has. That must be a big hit to his confidence there, as quite a few mistakes in just a few turns. And yeah, that battle between Baki and Daniel starting to get quite spicy now. Daniel doing absolutely anything possible, even if it is a little bit questionable, to get himself up into P4. He's been struggling so hard for this race. Everyone has to be making moves in these conditions. He had an opportunity. He had to go full send there. Whether the stewards will be happy about that or not, only time will tell. But for now, VIR Daniel is up into P4. But that battling between the two drivers, the Red Bull and its sister team AlphaTauri, has allowed Have to escape into the distance. He maintains P3 and is just 8/10 off of the back of Speed Fra, so he's doing a great job for himself in his debut Grand Prix. Meanwhile, NLR Slimbo currently 10 seconds off of the top 6. Seems like the top 6 have been driving a great race compared to the rest of the grid. And now Rodaz is trying to take advantage of Sanchowitz going a little bit wide on the exit of turn 15, using all of his ERS down the straight now, using the slipstream. He's going to look to the outside line, possibly juke Sanchowitz into going a bit deep. But Sanchowitz holds a good line, maybe not, because he gets himself a 3-second time penalty. And Rodaz, maybe not what he was intending, but if everything stays as it is, he will be finishing ahead of Sanchowitz and in the points in his very first Grand Prix. Meanwhile, that's Jordi. No, that's not a retirement corner. In the pit lane. He's had a spin on the exit of turn 15, and the safety car has been released, and with only 5 laps to go, this could be crucial.
Goodness. And his teammate is going to be absolutely distraught as Cherno comes into the pit. BB8 goes into 15th, but Bradders now is in a real pickle because the safety car, he has to come in. He's got no choice. He's not going to stay out here for the final few laps, is he? Surely not. These tyres must be shot.
Yeah, you can see, I think a lot of drivers are going to take this opportunity to box for fresh inters, although Bradders actually decides to stay out on 25-lap-old intermediate compound tyres. He decides it's not worth boxing, because even if he did box and if the drivers behind didn't box, there's only going to be about 2 laps of racing, so he's deciding track position is the most important thing, and well, at the end of the day, it could turn out to be the most important thing, as it doesn't look like any of the drivers are boxing, although I think we could see some of the drivers who are at the back and possibly outside the points boxing and trying to get any sort of advantage they can.
Yes, we do. It's Jerome. He's coming to the pits for his stop, and that may prove to be a crucial move for Jerome. Lacatu is nowhere to be seen, just to let you know. So it looks like, and he's really struggling in conditions. He almost spun there at the penultimate turn. So he will gain some positions. In fact, that may propel him into the points if he can catch up. Because remember, when we reach lap 32, or lap 31, sorry, the safety car will come in. It never comes in if there is 2 laps to go or less. When there's 3 laps to go, on that lap, the safety car comes in automatically. It doesn't matter if everyone's caught up. So take note, if you have never played F1 22 before, they always run it to a sprint finish. So like a green, white, checkered in NASCAR. But yes, there you go. Bradders, after all that work, he has to start from scratch. And with these tyres, it's going to be no easy task, let me tell you. It is going to be anyone's race. Oh no, it's like, I hate to mention it, it's like Abu Dhabi 2021 or Baku 2021 all over again. It goes down to the last two laps. Nothing matters before that. It's just now. It is cruel, but that is the way it goes here with the safety car.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like you mentioned, it's going to be a sprint to the finish now. Obviously, laps 31 of 33, which means that pretty much no matter what, the safety car will be coming to the pit lane, not the pit lane coming to the safety car. So there's going to be 2 laps of racing. Most drivers and every driver in the top 10 has stayed out on their intermediate compound tyres. Ariel Slash and Sanchowitz with a little bit of an advantage as they obviously boxed earlier on in the Grand Prix. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because these drivers are going to be pushing absolutely flat out for this safety car restart. They want to gain every single position and they want to make sure that they're in the highest position possible on the most crucial lap of the race, and that is the final lap, lap 33. So they're going to be pushing these worn intermediate compound tyres their very hardest until the end of this Grand Prix. Some drivers with time penalties, you can see NLR, Slimbo, Sanchowitz, it's Jerome, Nikitu, and Russell, all with time penalties. This safety car definitely won't help them out too much as bunching up the field means they can't really extend the gap that they need to in 2 laps time. Safety car now coming through the middle sector, and I'm sure race control at any moment is going to call in the safety car, and that is the call from race control. Safety car is in this lap. We're going to ride on board with Bradders for this restart. Let's see when is he going to choose his time to go. He went quite late on the previous restart and it worked out quite nicely up against Speed Fra, but the closer you get to the start finish line, the easier it is to predict when you are going to go. So let's see, when does Brothers choose to go? The safety car, you can see it on the mini-map, that yellow dot, it has to be back into the pit lane, and you can see Speed Fra getting very, very close there to the back of Brothers, and you can see Brothers trying to go for a bit of a fake start there on Speed Fra, looking to get any sort of advantage on the Alpha Tar, and it looks like his time to go is now, and you can see Brothers has got the safety car restart underway. Il Janu has got a good restart along with Hav, who's quite close to the back of Speed Fra coming into turn 1. Is anyone going to make a move? Everyone is quite bunched up right now, and you can see it's Jerome making the move on Rodaz into turn number 1. You can see a little bit of chaos here in the background. Sancho is trying to take advantage of the situation. Ariel Sash looks to the outside of Daniele. You can see Slimbo and the Williams of Janu going side by side through turn 4. Slash manages to find a way past Daniele. He's going to look to the inside. You can see Russell has fallen all the way down the order, and Ariel Slash is broken very late into turn number 5. The Kitu out of the session. It's 3 wide on the exit of turn number 5, and Daniele turns into the side of Ariel Slash, causing a big incident there, and you can see he is now falling all the way down the order, and Ariel Slash is not going to be happy with that at all. Daniele getting way too aggressive there and just turning into the side of Ariel Slash, and that has affected Slimbo the most. He falls all the way down to the back of the grid, and I'm sure the stewards will have a nice little look at that. BB8 looking to take advantage of the chaos and trying to get past Ariel Slash on the exit of turn number 12 now, and we head into turn number 13. Ariel Slash has the inside line, but he doesn't have the more flowing line. BB8 gets a better exit and is ahead coming into turn number 14. The driver had to box twice in the early stages, fell all the way down to the back, is now back up into P9. Brothers already extending a gap to Speed Fra behind. Meanwhile, Hav trying to make up the position on Speed Fra. It's the final lap of this Grand Prix. Not too much racing to go. It's Jerome using all of his ERS possible down this pit straight, and he jukes Sanchowitz into going deep into turn number 1. That's a great move there from It's Jerome, who's trying to commit on the inside line. Slimbo retires in the pit lane. It's Jerome now up into P7. He has got 3 seconds of time penalties. He needs to gain as much time as possible to the likes of BB8 and REL Slash behind him if he wants to score some decent points in today's Grand Prix.
Baki.
You can see Baki extremely close there to the back of VIR. Daniel have still trying to get past the likes of Speed Fra, but there's not too many overtaking opportunities now. It's just the bendy middle sector and the final sector, which consists of just 4 turns, so really not much to go here. And you can see a little bit of mistake there from Speed Frog, going quite wide on the entry of turn number 11. But as we come into the final sector now, Brothers, like he has for most of this Grand Prix now, and by quite some margin, he's led most of the laps, and he's done it by over 5 seconds until that last safety car. Brothers is going to come through turn number 15, and as he goes up the hill one final time, he is going to win the Portuguese Grand Prix. Speed Fra finishes P2, with Have finishing P3. Daniel manages to get into the top 4 after starting on pole position. He won't be super happy with that. Baki finishing 4 positions behind his title rival Janu in P6, BB8 in P7, Jerome in P8, Slash in P9, and Sanchowitz rounds out the top 10. But that was quite the race there in these intermediate conditions.
I don't know how they survived 30 laps. I thought they were going to burn out. Well, proves that I was wrong. Well done, Brothers.
An absolutely amazing race from a championship contending driver, and he's going to be extremely happy with that performance. It's a second race win in a row now, and that propels him into the championship lead. And not only is he in the championship lead, he's now got a lead of 10 points over Talent Factory. Lars has missed the last 2 rounds. Hopefully he can get his hands back to regular health so we can battle once again with Brothers, because right now Brothers is absolutely dominating this Formula 5 scene. 2 races where Lars hasn't attended, and Brothers has been able to pick up the pieces and win both of the 2 Grand Prix. Speedfra putting in another great performance, and he finds himself back onto the podium after getting a full-time drive for Alfa Romeo. And Have, in his debut Grand Prix, finds himself on the podium. And I mean, that result definitely cannot go unnoticed.
That can't go unnoticed. Well done, Have, Mick. He gets his first podium in his first F5 race. Also, I should mention, Brothers got the fastest lap, so he gets a bonus point. So he's got 17 points this race. He was 6 behind, so he's actually 11 ahead of Lars. Daniel got an early spin, but he managed to recover his 4th. BB8 in 7th after going... He started 7th, so he hasn't gained much, but he has gained a lot of respect for getting up the order and taking advantage. Jerome tried to get up the order, but could only manage 8th. Janu gets up to 6th after a tough start to the season. And there is the rest of your grid there. It's just not been a good day for Lakitu. There's a big collision between Lakitu and I think it was Russell and Slimbo as well. It was a big collision out of turn 4 and in the background. So that's probably what caused the retirement of Lakitu. But my word, what an ending.
Yeah, a race that lacked excitement at times definitely delivered at the end there, with great battles in the midfield and a new podium runner in this Formula 5 division in his very first Grand Prix after the mid-season placements. Also, Rodas, Russell, all people who were in their debut Grand Prix, BB8 and Daniele as well. So a round of applause to all getting a decent result for themselves today. And I hope you all enjoyed this Portuguese Grand Prix. It was quite a race here in Formula 5, and we definitely hope to see you all next week as Formula 5 definitely producing a lot of racing action now that we're getting into the latter stages of this championship, and with the drivers knowing how much is on the line, they're going to be pushing each other to the absolute maximum for these next couple of rounds. So make sure to join us next week where we arrive at Spa for round number 8, a track that
yes.
definitely produces some great racing action and has a very rich history. So we hope to see you all next week. This has been your race commentator, More Games and Otaku Logan, and goodbye for now.